So our next fireside chat will be how wearables transform human potential.
Yes, we're going to talk a little bit about how tracking data from wearables, such as like sleep or recovery metrics, can help you work smarter, sustain like better energy levels, and manage your time more effectively by understanding your overall well-being. And I can say that as a long-time user of Oura, 5 years that I'm wearing it, I believe that to the core of my being. So I'm really excited for this next conversation.
I'm right on the verge of buying, so I'm like, I can convert after this. But we'll have Mārtiņš and Heli. So Mārtiņš is the founder of Monetizr, and Heli is the senior director of future physiology, at Oura. So let's welcome Mārtiņš and Heli.
Bright. So, hi everyone. Hi Heli. So, thanks. My name is Mārtiņš. I'm like Lama said, I'm the founder of a startup company called Monetizr here, and I'm very excited to have Heli from Oura, the senior director of future physiology, here. So, welcome to Tech Chill.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Nice. Really excited to have you. I wanted to ask, your role or your title says future physiology. Can you explain or talk a little bit about what that means?
Maybe it's like we have now grown a little from the early days I joined the company. And future means that we have the longest bandwidth. So we have to ship features in certain periods. So we are constantly improving and developing new things. And in the future physiology, we have ability to think big and find out those kind of moonshots for 3 to 5 years time span. So I'm leading that group in the physiological side, that what could be the next big thing for our members.
Is it the hardware stuff or the software or?
All, like whatever there is. you know we can make it. It's like a startup within a bigger company. Like, we can still be innovative and fast and fail, but sometimes we succeed.
Hopefully more than not. So maybe if we zoom out a little bit, what would you say, like, why does tracking physiology and like physiology matter? Why should everyone care about it?
I think that from stress there is this kind of rock in a boiling pan methodology, where if you are actually putting a frog and then turn the kettle on, the frog stays there and boils to death. If you take the frog and put it in the heated water, it jumps away. So whatever we think, we are very good of telling us lies, that yeah, I'm very active, I sleep very well. And at least this week, I went to gym 3 times in a week. But when you start measuring, you understand that what you are actually doing and how they act for you. So I think that's the key, learning about yourself.
Yes, and when, being an Oura user myself for 3 years now, I think, I wanted to ask, so I'm sure you've seen this too in your life. I feel like whenever I speak with anyone, and also today I've had many conversations like that already, I think like people generally tend to fall into these 3 groups. One is the Oura users group. I always, whenever someone comes up to me and says like, hey, is that an Oura ring? Yes, I have one too. Feels like a part of a secret club almost somehow. And then that's the group number 1. The group number 2 is people like Loma, who is like considering, like on the verge. They have very many questions. And then there's people who have no idea that this form factor can actually measure stuff and give you any kind of insights. Is that also your kind of experience about who are the types of people in terms of the wearable ecosystem?
Yeah, I think it is. And of course, there is the persons who really annoy about measuring themselves. Like they don't even want to measure that. But of course, everybody has their own preferences, and Oura users are pretty keen to their product, so
Yeah.
it's happy to work in that kind of company. And whenever we meet people with Oura rings, it's almost that they are opening their app that what is happening in here. Like, can you tell me more? Is there something happening?
Yeah, like my wife and I, we both have Auras, and then that's actually our morning ritual is to compare scores for sleep and stuff. So I definitely identify with that. So for those people who are either considering or haven't heard about what it is, can you maybe explain to everyone, all of us, what exactly is Oura in your own words?
I think that as a wearable is something that you can forget. Like, it measures you day to day. You open the app, but you don't have to be the active one. So it's more about learning about yourself in this kind of subtle way. I normally describe wearables in overall like personal trainers. They are pushing the limits and measuring all what you are doing in activity-wise, but in Oura we are in recovery sleep. So it's more in this kind of best friend type of thing that it watches my back, and whenever I'm doing, it encourages me, but never actually blames me about who I am.
How did you, in the company, how did you get to this balance of features? Yeah, like I mean, I'm just thinking, many people here having their own both software and hardware startups companies. Every single day, people here have to make decisions and have to kind of make some kind of compromises, some kind of focus on one thing or the other thing. Can you maybe talk a little bit about how did that process work in like getting to this form factor with these set of features? You know, how did you find out what's important, what to put in there? Any interesting insights from that?
When Oura was founded, the founders were those kind of people who worked hard and were maybe not in the burnout phase, but this kind of wanting to take their recovery. So instead of like thinking about what other people would benefit, they invested for themselves. They made the product that they would like to use. And even today, inside the company, we are building plenty of the features for ourselves. Like, of course, we check what is there out and what our data can and what is feasible. But somewhat we have pretty enthusiastic people that wants the Oura to work for them in their lives. And whenever people are very strong-willed and they have this kind of passion for doing better for themselves, those are also pushed in the roadmaps. We do have this kind of hack week ideas that once in a year during 1 week, everybody can have like friends from other departments in the product development, from marketing, and just during that 1 week, hack what they would like Oura to be. Oh. And several of those ideas are actually product features at this point.
Oh wow, that's exciting. Kind of like an internal hackathon that helps you drive and figure out what the roadmap is. Nice. I mean, the other question that I personally get a lot when talking about Oura or any kind of wearables is, how does it really, like, what's the biggest difference between a smartwatch and a wearable format like Oura? I've heard that question 5 times today, or maybe more. So what do you typically say to that?
Yeah, I think that the variability is very easy with the ring. And one thing, it's pretty. Currently, females are leading our consumer base. So it's not the bulky. You can actually wear it 24/7. And of course, the battery life, it's a little bit different than in many of the smartwatches. So up to 7 days that it doesn't need to be in the charger all the day. Yeah. But I would say it's just the experience. Like, it's the whole, like from the hardware to the software, everything is in parity with each other. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, like for me, I guess what my default answer to that question has kind of become that my smartwatch is something that I use for activity tracking, so short form, like some kind of a short, relatively short activity that needs a lot of readings at a certain amount of time. and then it stops, right? More or less. Whereas Oura is something that I describe as more of like a habit tracker, sleep habit. I personally don't like sleeping with a watch. Oura is much more comfortable in that regard. So that's how I typically describe.
Yeah, and we started from the sleep. So before sleep was even a thing, Oura was first one in that area to actually trying to tell people that sleep matters.
Yeah, interesting. And then how about the? I know that Oura also has the automatic activity tracking. It kind of automatically basically creates tags and says, hey, you did this and does that, and then you kind of only confirm. How did that, like, how did that came into be? Is that one of the hackathon results, or is that? I'm just wondering from a product or a company involvement perspective, these features, where do they come from?
Yeah, I think that was also this kind of that what wanted to be we wanted to do for the customers. Whenever I studied activity recognition in the university, and it's a very difficult task in that way that you are doing something, every individual is different, and then you have to train the models. But with our AAD, we actually get the user to be there, like not being the one that tells what he's going to do, but afterwards we can ask that did you do something? And when you have the big data, you can actually do pretty massive things just utilizing that data pool. Like whenever people accept the automatic activity detection, we can train our models to understand that who you are and what are your activities. Of course, based on the big data, we have plenty of more activities. So if you go first time, for example, dancing, it might recognize that one.
Yeah, nice. I love that feature because it's easy to kind of confirm, and most of the times it gets it correctly. So it's one of my favorite things to do in the morning. Just wake up, confirm all the activities from what it offers from last day. So that's really cool. So we talked a little bit about what it is, but maybe can you talk about the story how the product and the customer evolved? Because I think what you mentioned before is that in the very early days it was kind of for biohackers and people like very niche, and now where has it evolved? Who is it for now?
It's still like health optimizers, but like the biohackers were a very big thing, but it also have this kind of, when somebody wears Oura Ring, they somehow love it so much that they tell their friends. So this kind of referrals have been one of the key subjects from the day one. Like, I'm wearing this cool stuff, you should also. And that was the biohackers first. They wanted more and more data, more accurate. But maybe the one of the was that there is the insights. Like we try to also verbalize what you are doing. And that's what helps then to come from the data hacker to actually understand what you are seeing and what you should be watching. So I think that now there are more this kind of modern day busy people. Of course, with this collaboration we have with Natural Cycles, Flow Clue, and female and period tracking and ovulation tracking have become a very massive in that area, like compared to the normal version, how you track it, based on your temperature, is putting the temperature meter every morning in your mouth, and this is just ring with the, sleep with the ring, and morning you will get the value. So it's convenient, and I think that people are very into this kind of that you don't have to mind what you are doing, but everything happens subtle and even noticing.
Yeah, like you mentioned temperature, for example. I've noticed in my own experience how sometimes it predicts kind of maybe a day ahead how you're gonna feel later, and then sometimes when Oura is the first place where I notice that I'm kind of starting to feel iffy, and it's usually right. if it's showing me something like that, then it usually is right, which is pretty cool actually. So we talked a little bit about the product itself and what it does. I wanted to kind of switch a little bit to also like the people using it. And for example, in the media, we've seen many athletes, like NBA players, Ronaldo, and like F1 teams. I've seen pictures on social media using Oura. Do you have any insights? Like, how are they? Are they using it any differently, or any insights that the rest of us can learn from them?
We very rarely get to speak to those guys. So if you know details, I could contact them. But they are also in this kind of recovery, like heart rate variability, which is one of our key metrics from the early days. It's still telling about your rest and recovery, how ready you are take the next day. So that's one of the metrics we know that they are using. Some cases I have heard that there are personal trainers that are watching the data for themselves, like trying to figure out how to optimize their routines. But I think every use case is a little bit different. But in that sense, it's the sleep recovery being the best of what they can be.
Yeah, and then essentially, I guess using those insights to optimize your habit, daily routines and stuff like that, right? Like sleep, when you go to sleep. I know they have, like you guys have the bedtime, optimal bedtime window is something that I find very useful, for example. I assume it's things like that, right?
Yeah, so we have actually two types of optimal bedtimes. One is based on your own chronotype.
Yeah.
So, some people are early birds, some are late owls, and for every single individual, when they sleep should be different. But that said, if you are a late owl and you have children to get to the daycare or the school at certain times or big meetings, it might end up that you need to wake and sleep against your chronotype. Mm-hmm. And optimal sleep time is then telling that if you cannot sleep based on your chronotype, be consistent what you are doing. There is thing called social jet lag, that in the weekends you live like you would be living in London, like 2 hour time difference. So, and it actually harms your, like, every morning, Monday morning, you are then like coming from traveling and try to be best at 8 a.m. So it might not be the optimal solution. So consistency is the key if you are not able to live against your, live like your chronotype mentions.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, that I think I've noticed that. And how, like, for example, that you're talking about like personal, maybe some trends or how you live, in the, I don't know, in vacation you probably have a slightly different schedule than on normal weekdays. But for example, throughout the year, are you seeing any kind of trends that happen with, or does the seasonality impact the trends that people are seeing or not so much?
Yes, and it actually is an interesting that we can measure it. Like every night we measure like average heart rate for every single user. And we did this kind of analysis that as a big data that how the trend seems.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest thing that actually causes increased heart rate is of course heavy training, but also alcohol. And when we plot the first time the whole graph, there were like 3 years of data and 3 very big peaks, like heart rates of the population-wide were very up. Those were the New Year's Eves. So everybody, and then when we were counting about the peaks between those, there was 52. Like we could see that people maybe are heavy training in the weekends, I'm assuming. And then
or drinking.
it might be the drinking, but normally overusers stop that one. But there was actually a seasonality effect that in the summertime, heart rates decrease in the northern hemisphere. And of course, in the southern hemisphere, we get the opposite timing for that one. So we have too many rhythms, like we have the normal life, the society, and then we have the solar system.
Wow. So I didn't even think about that impacting it. But I mean, these trends are always fascinating me, and I always love these kind of like insights. And so you're doing what you do, you probably see many such trends. Any other like interesting trends that you've noticed, or something that has been like unexpected that you've learned about how, what you can measure, or maybe physiology stuff that is thing?
Of course, as I mentioned, even the female's health. I joined Oura 8.5 years ago, and this kind of constant temperature measurement wasn't a thing. So how it actually changes everything in a female's life, heart rate variability, they are very like this kind of monthly cycle. So that was very like this kind of niche information back then, but now it feels that everybody already knows it. So like temperature is, and what happens if you get pregnant or things like that. So how fast it actually changes.
Have you seen also, I assume, because that happened to me, I assume that when you first get your first ring and you start tracking, do you see some kind of, are most people actually improving something? Or, or are they kind of like only analyzing and saying, okay, this is who I am and that's it?
We did an analysis, and majority of our users do start improving. So it's first, of course, this kind of small steps, and currently we have behavioral scientists inside just to support people in their health journeys, that they actually know what to improve. When many times when people start improving, they improve everything. Like January 1st, stop drinking, stop eating, start exercising, and January 15th, you are already like, this was too much. So just making this kind of small steps that you can actually follow is something that we are encouraging people to do.
No, that's cool. I just keep thinking, there's probably no alcohol at your company events, no?
But you know how it affects, so you can make the
True.
informed decision if you will consume alcohol or not.
Yeah. Awesome. No, this is great. I wanted to ask also about some practical tips. We've touched some here and there, but given the types of, first of all, like for those that don't know, I think what Oura does pretty good is the scores, the readiness score, the sleep score, and the activity score, which is kind of like a number that represents how are you on the scale from 0 to 100 on that specific thing. When you go into that, each metric, there's additional metrics. And maybe for a first-time user, it can be a little bit overwhelming. What do you suggest people to pay attention the most, especially when they're new to this?
I think that when you are new, the big numbers are the things to follow. And if we have this kind of crowns or verbal saying that is it pay attention, fair, good, or optimal, so just then if there is something what is causing to be fair or pay attention, to follow those more. But I think it's more in this kind of finding a balance and trending that, and even like we are very into numbers, so 100 is the at max,
Yeah.
but 85 is already like crown for us.
Yeah.
Like trying to figure out and tell and educate people that overdoing is not maybe the thing that they should be doing. And I would say that basic metrics, from there to go step by step what is the interest. We have things for women's health, we have now heart health, stress, resilience. So it's what is your life currently. It might be telling you different things.
Mm-hmm. And out of all these metrics and KPIs that you guys measure, are there any myths or some kind of metrics that people misunderstand based on your experience?
I think the stress is the worst in that case,
Yeah.
because stress as a word is already very negative in this society. And even I would say that if I'm enjoying on the stage, my stress should be pretty high, but it doesn't mean that it's a negative thing.
Yeah.
And our body is actually built that we can cope with stress. So it's when, again, if you are overdoing, it's the bad thing. But I would say that the funniest and most exciting times are the ones that I feel most stressed or my physiology feels stressed. And even for those happy days, you just can come back home and sleep in the couch under the blanket and think that I need this recovery. So I think that's something that people should be aware of.
And how about like the sleep part? Because I mean, the sleep part is probably something that we're not actively aware of. And I've had many conversations with people who have said that having any kind of device measure your sleep actually showed them that they're sleeping better than they expected or felt. Is that something you're seeing as well?
Yeah, many times people think that if they wake up, for example, during nighttime, that it's very bad, but that happens to all of us. So, of course, if you stay awake 1 or 2 hours during the nighttime, that's not anymore. But these kind of normal awakenings, they happens to all of us, and just to understanding at what is normal, sometimes eases the thinking about that if my sleep is good or bad.
Yeah, it's also about the sleep cycles. You know, the deep sleep, the REM sleep. I know at least a couple of people who have after getting Oura, they're like, oh, my deep sleep is actually only this percentage of my night. I must be sleeping very poorly. Is that true, or how should you interpret that data?
That's why we have the contributors telling that was it enough deep sleep for you, and of course it again we try to tell what is happening to you, and when you wake up and live your life, if it actually is something that you notice in your daily life, then you should be worried, and then you can find some tricks or something that will help. Like in Finland, we are very keen to tell that sauna is one of those nice things that you can do and make this kind of winding down windows before you go to sleep, just that your body knows that you are now ready to fall asleep, and then that's why. And of course,
Kind of like a ritual thing, right?
Yeah, rituals, like if you have a small baby, you try to teach them the rituals. So we adults think that we know better, but we don't. It's like rituals and then following those.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I know we're almost closing into our time limit here, but I wanted to kind of ask if there's one thing that if there's one thing that you want the audience to take away from what you've learned throughout these years at Oura and Physiology, what would that be? What would be your advice to the audience who either have or don't have wearables to measure this kind of stuff?
Yeah. While we tell that Oura is there for tell that when you are in your peaks, so when you actually have the best days, that you should challenge yourself. It's also a little bit compassion for yourself that not all days are for those. Like, for example, 10,000 steps is a very, how would I say, hard in a stone measurement that you should have, but not every day. So just this kind of daily, weekly variation is normal. So in those days that you are not actually feeling well, maybe take a deep breath, few minutes, alone time, and then it actually improves your well-being and then how you act the next day.
Yeah, no, I think these, at least for me, and maybe it's some kind of psychological, just reconfirmation of how I'm feeling in the numbers. But I've definitely felt many times when I don't feel like I've slept well or something, but then actually the numbers show a much better result than what I'm feeling, and that fact actually lifts me up a little bit. I'm like, hey, I am actually ready for this day. So that's happy to hear all these insights. But yeah, like we've covered quite a lot today, starting from your role, what it is, any tips and tricks, athletes, a lot of good stuff. Any last things you want to mention, maybe that we didn't touch today?
I think maybe it's like I was mentioning that we are building a product for ourselves, like that has been driving force for everything from the day one. So even that when we were less than 10 people in the company, we still get the talents that are driving the same idea. Like even I was sometimes questioning that what makes people to join the company, and it's still the mission that what we are doing. It's like we want to make people improve their better, and many people who join the company, they actually have some issue that Oura have helped or can help. So it's very nice when everybody is driving the same direction, even inside the company.
Yeah, I think like in the startup world, pretty much everyone has like the balance of finding those moments when you can say to yourself, like you said, like, hey, take a breath, like take it easy. I think that's very hard for myself and many people that I know. So that's why I think this kind of technology and products that help us see that more clearly is great. But yeah, I mean, Heli, thanks so much for the conversation. Thanks for sharing the expertise and know-how and everything. And of course, thank you all for being here. I hope that you walk away with at least a couple of insights about physiology and what to look for and what to look for in your wearables. So yeah, I mean, happy to chat later, and thanks so much for coming. Thank you, Heli.